Nate Maness versus Luke Sanders. The one thing here to note that Nate has had a fight in the UFC during the COVID period. The reason why that's important is, as we know, like the whole structure to UFC events has kind of changed. So Nate has had chance to sort of like go through that process and adapt to it. Luke, on the other hand, hasn't fought recently. It's been, I think, almost 2 years since he's had a fight. He has not, that means he hasn't fought in these COVID times either. So he hasn't been put through that same situation or scenario. So things are going to be a little bit different going into this fight. A lot of people think this stuff doesn't matter, but it kind of does, because you're sort of expecting one thing and you might be derailed, right? We saw in some cases that fighters weren't able to train and they were like running in the parking lot at one of these events. So things like that are going to come into play that Luke Sanders maybe doesn't expect, that Nate Maness is prepared and ready for as far as preparing for the fight. The other thing to note is that Luke Sanders has lost 3 of his last 5 fights, but he's 2-3. So he's won his last 2, but he's lost 3 of his last fights, if that makes sense. But that being said, Luke also has fought the better competition. So, in my opinion, at least, and the fighters with more records, more skill, and this is the part where I have a little bit of a differing opinion. I think Sanders wins because of the experience almost, but and by experience I mean like these guys have essentially had similar amounts of fights. I think Luke has only had a few more fights than Nate. The difference is that Luke Sanders has had like 6 fights in the UFC. Nate has had 1. Now, granted, Nate beat his 1 fight in the UFC. I think that was against Munoz Jr. And he's won 4 of his last 5. And he's the more consistent fighter. But he, once again, hasn't fought people on the caliber and scale that Luke Sanders has fought. Now, if you ask me today, is Luke Sanders like contender champion material? That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that he does have a better experience chance of beating Nate Maness. It's really difficult too, because Nate has been doing well, but he's dropping down in weight, if I'm not mistaken. And he's got decent skills. So this is a really hard bet for me to make. But I am going to go with Sanders. Earlier on, I was probably swaying more towards Maness, but it wasn't until I kind of looked at their fight history and saw, Maness hasn't really fought great competition. So how can you rely on someone like that? And you could look at someone like Luke Sanders, who has lost his last 2 fights, but that gives him more motivation to win. He's taken some time off, so that 2 years that he hasn't fought in, well, what if he's been just training to get a lot better? People think that a lot of times these delays are, making people like have ring rust and stuff like that. And maybe it is, but at the same time, like, what if they were injured? What if they were just like, hey, I had 2 losses. I need to come back from this and I need to come back stronger. So I'm going to improve my skills. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to get my body all healthy, and then I'm going to come back stronger. And I think Luke Sanders has that mentality. So for this fight, I'm taking Luke Sanders. I don't know how either of these guys would win, so I'm just going to go by decision. But usually if I give you a method of victory, I don't go based on that. I would just go based on the fact that they would win. So I will tell you if I'm certain on a method of victory, though.